Sigmas, let's face it, being different comes at a price. Have you ever felt like the world doesn't get you and maybe it never will? Imagine walking through a crowded room, hearing the chatter, feeling the energy, but somehow it all feels like static. You're there, but you're not in it. You're watching, analyzing, and calculating. Everyone's looking for the spotlight, and you're just searching for truth. That's not a defect. That's Sigma. This isn't a phase. This is who you are. Sigmas are introverted alphas, independent, strategic thinkers who operate outside the social hierarchy. Unlike alphas who dominate groups or betas who conform, Sigmas chart their own course. Studies in psychology even highlight a lone wolf archetype, where such individuals show high levels of self-awareness, discipline, and emotional intelligence. Being a Sigma comes with truths so deep, most people couldn't handle them if they tried, but you carry them like a badge of honor. No need to explain, but today we will. We're diving into the mysterious, misunderstood world of the Sigma male. Not to glorify, not to pity, but to understand. And maybe, just maybe, to realize that you're not alone. Because being a Sigma isn't about fitting in, it's about standing strong in who you are. Number one, you're always misunderstood, even when you're right. Being a Sigma means you often operate on a frequency most people can't tune into. And that's not a flaw, it's a gift. In a world that rewards loud personalities and constant social engagement, your quiet strength disrupts the norm. While others may speak to fill silence, you think before you speak. And when you do speak, your words carry impact. This level of intentional communication reflects emotional intelligence and self-awareness, traits that studies show are crucial for authentic leadership and deep relationships. But here's the twist. Society struggles to understand silence that speaks louder than noise. People are conditioned to equate talkativeness with friendliness and reserve with rudeness. So when you stand back, observe, and choose your moments carefully, some may see it as arrogance or aloofness. That's their misunderstanding, not your mistake. Being selective with your energy and attention is actually a psychological strength. It reflects high boundaries and low tolerance for superficiality. You're not withdrawn, you're strategic. You read people quickly, often seeing through facades and posturing. That kind of insight unnerves people who rely on masks to get by. This is where the Sigma paradox comes in. You're not antisocial, you're differently social. You prefer depth over drama, truth over talk, and solitude over noise, and that intimidates those who don't understand it. But don't water down your presence to soothe their insecurities. Keep operating at your frequency. The right people will tune in. Number two, you crave connection, but despise clinginess. You want meaningful relationships. Yes, even Sigmas need love, but shallow connections drain you. Here's the paradox. The deeper the bond, the fewer people you can share it with. Let's break that down. Sigma males are known for being fiercely independent, but that doesn't mean they're emotionless loners. In fact, research in personality psychology shows that introverted individuals, like Sigmas, tend to seek fewer but deeper emotional connections. They crave intimacy that's rooted in trust, loyalty, and shared values, not small talk or surface-level chatter. That's why casual friendships often feel exhausting. It's not about being antisocial, it's about conserving emotional energy for people who truly matter. Think of it like this. Sigmas are emotional investors. They don't put their time and trust into just anyone, but when they do, they're in it 100%. Unfortunately, this level of emotional selectiveness can be misunderstood. To the average person, a Sigma's quiet nature might come off as cold or disinterested, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Their detachment isn't rejection, it's protection. They're filtering for authenticity. And when someone finally breaks through that filter, they discover a loyal, thoughtful, and deeply committed individual, someone who will stand by you long after the crowd disappears. So yes, Sigmas need love, but not the performative kind, not the selfie-perfect, #ready kind. They want love that's real, private, and profound. They're not avoiding connection, they're waiting for the right one, because once a Sigma lets you in, you're not just another friend, you're family. Number three, you walk alone, but it's not because you're lonely. You choose solitude, not out of despair, but by design, and that makes all the difference. It's not a retreat from the world, but a strategic withdrawal. For many, silence is uncomfortable, but for you, it's a sanctuary. In solitude, your mind becomes sharper. Neuroscientific studies have shown that alone time boosts creativity, enhances self-reflection, and strengthens problem-solving abilities. That's not weakness, that's evolution. Solitude is your power source. While the world rushes to fill every silence with noise and every moment with movement, you pause, you recharge, you reflect, you recalibrate. But let's not sugarcoat it. It gets lonely sometimes. You look around and see others easily forming groups, cliques, and alliances. They laugh, they share, they connect. And there you are on the sidelines, not because you're excluded, but because you haven't chosen to step in. You're the observer in the shadows, the silent sentinel, and it stings sometimes to be unnoticed or misunderstood. But here's what separates you from the rest. You don't join just to blend in. You wait for something authentic, real, aligned with your purpose. That takes patience, but it also takes strength. While others rush to belong, you stand firm in your solitude. And when you do connect, it's not out of desperation, but intention. That's rare, that's powerful, and that's why your silence speaks louder than their noise. Number 4, you're expected to lead, but you refuse to conform. People are drawn to your confidence and clarity, assuming you're made for leadership. And in many ways, they're right. But your leadership doesn't come from domination or loud commands. It comes from something far deeper. Unlike the alpha, who thrives on being at the top of a hierarchy and needs validation to feel powerful, you reject that entire system. You don't chase power, you embody it. You lead not with a raised voice, but with a raised standard. Your actions speak volumes, and people follow, not because they're told to, but because they're inspired to. This kind of leadership, known as, is often more effective than authoritarian leadership styles. In fact, studies show that people are more loyal to leaders who are authentic, humble, and consistent. You're not interested in being the king on the battlefield. You're the strategist behind the scenes, the architect of the vision, the quiet presence that shifts the entire atmosphere. That kind of influence is subtle but powerful, and it unsettles people who are used to measuring leadership by control and titles. You're a ghost with a throne. Present, powerful, but elusive. They can't pin you down, and that mystique only adds to your authority. It's not about being served, it's about serving something greater than ego. And because you operate outside the system doesn't know how to deal with you. That's why your power isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. And revolutions, as history proves, always start in silence before they shake the world. Number 5. You see through everyone, and it's exhausting. Call it intuition, call it pattern recognition, call it a curse. Whatever name you give it, this ability to see through people isn't just a talent, it's a psychological superpower rooted in emotional intelligence and social cognition. You read people like open books, even the ones who clutch their covers shut. You notice micro-expressions, tone shifts, and body language inconsistencies. These cues may seem invisible to the average person, but to you, they speak volumes. Science calls this high interpersonal sensitivity, and it's linked to heightened activity in the brain's anterior cingulate cortex and amygdala, areas that process empathy and emotional cues. You spot the agenda behind a smile. You recognize fear in the loudest voices. You catch the sadness hiding behind sarcasm and the neediness behind nonchalance. But here's the dark truth. You can't unsee it. You can't switch it off. That mental Rolodex of other people's motives and feelings, it's always spinning. It's like living in high definition when everyone else is in low res. You carry their masks, their contradictions, their chaos, and it can be emotionally draining. Still you endure. Not because it's easy, but because truth matters more to you than comfort. You'd rather walk through a storm of emotional complexity than live under the illusion of clear skies. And while it may feel like a burden, know this. Your insight is rare. It's what separates surface dwellers from deep divers. It's not just a gift, it's a responsibility. Number 6, you're a mystery, and that makes you a target. The less you reveal, the more people want to know. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In a world addicted to oversharing and constant validation, the Sigma's quiet confidence unsettles people. He doesn't post every move online, doesn't broadcast his thoughts, and certainly doesn't explain himself. That mystery creates intrigue, but also discomfort. People start asking, why is he so quiet? Why doesn't he party like everyone else? Why does he vanish for days at a time? What they don't realize is that Sigma males are wired differently. Psychology even recognizes this as a trait of high self-monitoring introverts. Individuals who are observant, highly aware, but not necessarily eager to interact unless it's meaningful. They thrive in solitude because it recharges them and sharpens their thinking. According to research in the Journal of Individual Differences, people who spend more time alone often exhibit higher levels of creativity and emotional regulation. But here's the twist. Society doesn't always know what to do with someone who isn't trying to fit in. People fear what they don't understand, and what they fear, they often try to control, label, or destroy. That's why Sigma males, despite their peaceful nature, can provoke jealousy, rumors, or even hostility. You're not doing anything wrong, but your mere existence, your independence, and your refusal to conform challenge the status quo. And in a world that punishes what it can't predict, that makes you both powerful and dangerous. Number 7, you're self-sufficient, so no one checks on you. You've mastered the art of independence. You solve your own problems, heal your own wounds, and build your own path with quiet resilience. This is the essence of a Sigma male, self-reliant, introspective, and mentally tough. But here's the paradox. Your strength often becomes your invisibility. Because you rarely complain or ask for help, people assume you don't need support. You become the rock for others while no one stops to check if that rock is cracking under pressure. Studies in psychology show that individuals who exhibit high levels of self-reliance and emotional control are often overlooked when it comes to receiving emotional support. The world sees your calm exterior, but misses the internal battles you face. Sigmas aren't emotionless, they just process things internally away from noise and drama. Being at the top of your game can be isolating. You're admired for your composure and independence, but admired from a distance. The truth? Even the strongest minds need recognition, connection, and moments of rest. Carrying the weight of your world in silence is noble but exhausting. Still, Sigmas don't crumble under that weight. They grow stronger. You've learned that solitude is not emptiness, but clarity. And though the world may not always applaud your strength, you know the view from the top, the one you climbed alone, is worth it. But let's be real. Every now and then, it wouldn't hurt if someone said, "I see you. I appreciate you." Because being silent doesn't mean you're not human. Number 8, you can't tolerate small talk, so you often say nothing. Surface-level conversations often feel like emotional junk food. They're quick and easy, but leave you feeling unsatisfied. These types of interactions don't nourish your mind or spirit. Instead, they only fill the air. You find yourself in exchanges that lack depth, meaning, or real connection. And when the conversation starts with something like, "How's the weather?" your mind quickly shifts to thoughts of escape. It's not that you're antisocial or uninterested in others. It's that you value your energy and you understand that time spent in shallow discussions could be better used elsewhere. People who crave meaningful connections seek conversations that dive deeper than the surface. They want to know what truly matters to others, not just small talk. When you engage in these profound conversations, you're not only sharing thoughts, but you're also building emotional bonds. The benefits of deep communication are numerous. It fosters stronger relationships, improves emotional intelligence, and promotes personal growth. In fact, research suggests that meaningful conversations release oxytocin, often referred to as the bonding hormone, which helps create feelings of trust and connection. When you engage in more meaningful dialogue, you're nurturing your mental and emotional well-being. So next time you're faced with a mundane question, consider offering a more thought-provoking response or embracing silence, knowing that your energy is better spent on conversations that bring value to your life. Number 9, you intimidate without trying. When you enter a room, there's an undeniable presence about you. It's not because you're trying to command attention, but because your energy speaks for itself. This quiet confidence, often misinterpreted as aloofness, comes from a place of self-assurance that doesn't need external validation. Your body language, from a sharp gaze to a calm, unbothered demeanor, communicates that you are content and centered within yourself. For many people, especially those who struggle with insecurity, this can be unsettling. It's easy to feel threatened by someone who exudes a calm certainty that doesn't require acknowledgement or applause. They project their insecurities onto you, often perceiving you as someone to be competitive with, or even worse, as a threat to their own sense of self-worth. In their eyes, your strength might look like arrogance, but in reality, it's just your authentic nature showing through. What often happens next is that these insecure individuals try to create a narrative where you're the villain, misunderstood, unfairly judged, and falsely accused of things you never did. But for you, the situation is simple. You don't need to explain yourself because truth doesn't need validation. People will always interpret things through their own lens, but as a Sigma, you know that your value is not defined by others' opinions. You simply continue being yourself, knowing that your true essence will always speak louder than any misjudgment. Number 10, you know your purpose, but can't explain it. There's a fire inside of you that burns with purpose, one that doesn't seek permission to ignite. It's the kind of drive that doesn't rely on external validation or applause to thrive. In a world that prizes titles, accolades, and external recognition, your mission is different. It's deeper. It's a calling that doesn't require an audience to be fulfilled. When you walk your path with purpose, you're not seeking approval from others. Instead, you're seeking alignment with your true self, your higher calling. Alignment means making choices that are true to who you are, not who others think you should be. This path is often one of solitude. It can feel like you're walking alone without the cheering crowd or the social media likes. Even your shadow might question where you're headed, as it seems like everyone else is following a different, easier route. But the truth is, solitude is where growth happens. It's where clarity is found. When you walk a path not defined by society's expectations, you're freeing yourself from the constraints of comparison and competition. The need for external validation fades away, and the focus shifts inward, on the mission, on the purpose, on the greater good. In that space, you're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be. The journey may seem lonely, but it's necessary for the kind of growth that aligns with your true self. Remember, you don't need applause to prove your worth. What you need is alignment with your higher purpose. And once you have that, the rest will fall into place. Trust your path, even if it's the one less traveled. You already know where you're going, and that's all that matters. Sigmas, this world wasn't built for people like you, but it needs people like you. Lone wolves, truth seekers, visionaries. You carry a quiet strength that speaks volumes in a world drowning in noise. Don't ever let the misunderstandings of others shrink your presence. If you felt this in your bones, it's because you were meant to. You're not broken, you're built differently, and that's your edge. So if you're ready to embrace the Sigma path, hit that like button, subscribe, and join our community. Let's keep growing, keep rising, and keep redefining what it means to live on your terms. Stay true and stay Sigma.